Hope you're having an alright time with things and getting on with things okay, and we've got plenty to watch on Netflix. But welcome to our second lesson on social policy. So yesterday we all looked at schooling types, today we're looking at marketisation policies. Two types of questions can come up. They might ask you to simply describe the effects of marketisation, or they might ask you specifically on how marketisation has had an impact on inequality. So with each point, I'll be explaining that link. On the top of this slide, I have written an exam question. I would like this sent to me by Wednesday at the latest. The quicker you send it to me, the quicker the response will be back from me. You can do it in two ways. You can just have a go at doing it and use your notes and send it to me, or what you might want to do is revise for it and give yourself 45 minutes and see how you're doing time conditions. It's obviously linked to the topic that you've just done, role of education. If you are struggling with it, as always, ask for help, drop me an email and I'll give you support. Okay, now in terms of marketisation policies, it's useful to think about open evenings because it's something that you guys have all taken part on. Now, when we have an open evening, you'll notice that all teachers really promote their subjects. So with sociology, I made leaflets, I was handing them out to people, and I was trying to encourage people to do my subject. The reason schools put on a good show like that is because, as you remember before, every single one of you is worth a certain amount of money. The more of you we get, the more income our school gets. Year 9 open evenings, I know some of you are really kind and helped out with that. We were promoting our school. Think of it like a business. When businesses want to make money, they advertise. Schools are like a business in that sense that they need to promote themselves. Okay. So definition of marketisation, before we do any paragraphs, just to be clear, the definition of marketisation is reducing direct state control. So no longer do schools dictate, no longer does the government, dictate how we spend our money. No longer do they dictate every single thing we teach. We've got a little bit more freedom, and that means that we can promote ourselves as a unique business. So, for example, one thing that we have to promote ourselves on is we are the leading school in the country for DV. So that gives us a unique selling point. Secondly, it increases both competition between schools and parental choice of schools. So if you're living in this community, you can choose between North and South Bromsgrove. If you're living in Birmingham, there's a selection of free schools that we learned about the other days that suit individual needs, or you can pick a particular state school. So it's all about giving people more choice. And the more choice you have, the more a school has to compete to get you in. And the idea is we will drive up the quality of schools. Okay, so this is essentially what marketisation is. Now, what I would like you to do is explain how universities have faced marketisation. So think, what about universities means they're competing for us? How do they make money from us, and how do they compete for us? Pause this video, write a couple of sentences. If you're not sure, email me. Now we're clear on the definition, we want to get into the theory behind it and the social research. So we've got here our paragraph 1 is all about the role of the school, how they select students and how that has an impact. Okay, on the next couple of slides, sorry I fell over. On the next couple of slides you have, you're going to have the Ofsted report of 2 schools. Now what's really important, I've shown this on Google Maps, they're only a 5-minute walk from each other. So what this means is that theoretically people in your local community, because of marketisation, can pick between one or the other. Right. Have a look at the 2 Ofsted reports. You will see one school is significantly better than the other. So you can imagine the majority of people are going to want to go to that outstanding school. So the outstanding school is going to get lots more applicants. what you've got to think to yourself is these schools want to stay looking good, and they want to stay looking good so they can get at the top of the league tables and carry on promoting themselves. So if you were a school and you could select who you wanted, because you had so many people apply, you're going to use your common sense and pick people who are most likely to do well. So we use two key terms. Cream skimming is identifying students who are most likely to be successful, most likely to get you to A to C that looks good on the league tables. And this tends to be white, middle-class girls are the most secure, safe bet on getting your good grades. I know that's completely prejudice and everything, but it's a sociological theory. Anyone who doesn't fit into this criteria is silt shifted. So silt shifting is where you literally get rid of the ones or don't allow the ones in that you don't think are going to get the best grades. Can I get you to pause this video and, using the terms cream skimming and silt shifting, explain what students are going to get into the outstanding school and what are going to go to failing school. If you are aiming for an AA star, this is a challenge aspect of the task. Link it to either our studies on class, education or ethnicity to explain why white middle class girls are going to be more appealing to an outstanding school. Okay, hopefully you've done that task and you're going to want to have an evaluation point to go with that. Now, this is saying that schools are going to want to select white middle-class female students. Now remember, there is an incentive for schools to take on working-class students, and this is pupil premium funding. Schools that take on working-class students have a financial incentive for taking them on, so make sure you put that down as your evaluation point for this particular paragraph. Okay, paragraph 2 on marketisation. This is called the funding formula. Remember, you already know this, every single student is worth a certain amount of money to the education system. We get money for all of you. What I would like you to do is, using what we have just learned and your own knowledge, can I get you to explain why the failing school, St Edmunds, will get less money? Once you've done that, identify what problems this will cause the school. Now, there's a certain key term I would like you to use, and that's sink schools. We've used that briefly before when we did new writing policy. A sink school is a school that's doing badly. It then starts to lose money, so it starts to get worse and worse and worse because it can't come up with any way of improving because it hasn't got the money. Pause this video and have a go at that. Okay, if you've done that and you weren't too sure, I'm just going to give you a couple of tips for some people who might have been struggling a little bit. So what you could talk about is, if you are a school like St Edmunds, you're obviously going to be getting lower ability students. The average TA costs about £9 an hour to have in the lesson. So they're not going to be able to afford that, which means those students are going to do worse. You need 12 students to break even on a sixth form class. Because they're unlikely to get that, they're going to have to narrow down their range of subjects and the students are going to have less choice. Finally, you're going to have to save money on teachers. The cheapest teachers are less qualified, so NQT teachers. And you're going to struggle to get the more experienced, more qualified teachers who can cost 10 grand more. So you're going to have a poorer quality of school. Now, in terms of evaluation for that, what you could talk about is that there are many cheaper packages that schools are using to ensure students have a basic level of education. Some of the things that we use in school that are really effective, like Kahoot, is free. Sam Learning is relatively cheap and has a big effect on working class students. So there's lots of cheap ways that these so-called sink schools can use to help improve. Okay, paragraph 3, we're going back, now we're moving away from how the schools respond to these students, and we're actually looking at how the students and their parents select select schools. Okay, you might want to check this out on Rightmove, and it will help you remember, and you can use this as evidence. The average school catchment area has, the average house in an outstanding catchment area will be 10 grand more than the average house that isn't. So you're going to be paying more on your mortgage or paying more on rent if you live in an outstanding catchment area. That is called economic capital because it means that only the middle class can afford to live in an area where they will get into an outstanding school. It's not just economic capital. Middle class parents can also use their cultural and educational capital to ensure their students get into an outstanding school. Now this is called privileged skilled choosers. So middle class parents are able to use their economic and cultural capital to gain educational capital for their children. What I mean by that is they use their knowledge and their education understanding to get their kids into those outstanding schools. Can I get you to note that down, but also look back for your notes, maybe, on middle class capital and explain 1 or 2 ways that a middle class parent is going to be more able to get their kid into an outstanding school. Do the same for disconnected local choosers. So these are working class parents whose choices were restricted by their lack of economic and cultural capitals. Again, write a reason why. If you're aiming for an A and A star for this point, can I get you to put how their collectivist attitude is going to impact what school they go to? If you're really stuck, there's a few examples of things you could talk about to help you. So the average travel cost for attending a school outside your catchment area is £634 a year. Working class parents are more likely to work shift work and get less holiday time. Middle class parents are more likely to have gone to good schools or universities. So if you can't think of your own ideas, use those but explain how that links to educational, economic or cultural capital. This is tough, so if you want to email me to get support, please let me know. Okay, now in terms of evaluation for this point, what you could talk about is the fact it's actually quite an offensive theory. It's saying that working class parents don't have the understanding of a simple education system to even read a league table and see what school is outstanding. It also assumes that middle class parents do not care about what school their student goes to, which in fact is not true. We know that many working class parents would like to attend things like Parents' Evening but can't because they take part in shift work. So if I could get you in your own words to put that down as evaluation. Okay, 1 more paragraph left to go. Now this last paragraph, I haven't written very much because we've already done this, we're recycling knowledge. That's the nice thing about sociology. Sometimes you learn something and you can apply it to different aspects of the course. Now, this is the educational triage. Educational triage, if I remind you, I'm going to explain it and I'm going to get you to, as your final task, write this in your own words. The educational triage is the idea that teachers do not have the resources or the time to invest so much effort into every single student. So they put students into categories: A grade students, hopeless cases and borderline students. They want, remember, a certain percentage of A to C's. Students who get A to C's will look good in the league tables, and teachers have targets on a certain percentage of A to C's. I've got a target on how many of you I need to get A to C grades. So what the theory is that the teachers will invest the majority of time and effort into the C, D borderline students. Students they think with a bit of extra support they can push into C grades. Hopeless cases they will not waste their time on because they think they are never going to get into the A to C grades. Now, how this impacts inequality is a working class student is more likely to get labelled as a hopeless case than a middle class student. The way those hopeless cases tend to be treated is they do not get much attention in lessons. Working class students tend to get the less qualified teachers, and they tend to get poorer standards of marking. So that's what you can talk about with regards to that. Now, if we remember evaluation, one of the criteria for Ofsted, what they look at, is that disadvantaged students are being supported. So if they came to a school and working class students were doing significantly worse than other students, that would bring up problems with Ofsted. So there is an incentive for middle class students to be supported. Every single point I've explained to you has identified an aspect of marketisation and identified how it causes inequality. So after this lesson, where you should be at is you should be able to write an essay answering the question, how does marketisation increase inequality? If you are struggling with any aspect, I'll remind you again, drop me an email. I'm checking them all the time. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Remember, for Wednesday, I would like that essay question emailed to me before if you want to, and I will get straight back to you. Really missing you guys, and really hope you have a good time. If you've got any recommendations for good Netflix to show, I'm always looking for something new to start watching, and just miss you again. Bye.